much for joining me today. Okay, first things first, and this may be weird, but I want to start calling you my precious little dragons. Like my trophy, hello my precious little dragons, or something like that, because I love dragons. They're my favorite mythical creature in the entire universe, and they can be strong, they can be weird, they can be wacky, they can be wise. They're absolutely gorgeous. I love every iteration of them, and they're super unique and magical, and I just think it'd be fun to call you guys my precious little dragons, so I think I'm gonna do that from now on. Okay, so now that we've got that out of the way, also happy slightly belated Black History Month. So I read a couple of books specifically for Black History Month, and I wasn't really thinking about the fact that I would be reading them during Black History Month, so by the time I actually finished reading them, recorded the video, edited the video, and posted them, it would probably be no longer February. But there is no reason why we can't celebrate Black history the rest of the year. So yeah, I am going to be reviewing The Help by Kathryn Stockett. I am going to give you guys fair warning. I loved this book. It was so much fun. A little bit of a side note. Some of you are probably going, excuse you, The Help is by a white author. Yeah. So I went to the library and I got the other book that I read for Black History Month specifically was A Blade So Black, which has both a African-American main character and author, but as I have told you guys before, I love to listen to audiobooks on my way to and from work, and I had a lot of travel this month, so I really needed an audiobook. So I went to the audiobook section of my library in the adult area instead of the kids area, because the kids area actually has some more diversity, but I've listened to pretty much every audiobook in the kids section, so I went to the adult section because I haven't listened to as many there. So I literally looked through every single audiobook in the adult section, and The Help was literally the only audiobook that had an African American main character. Now, maybe I missed something, or maybe something was checked out because February had already started when I checked it out, so maybe all of the other ones were just already gone, but that was literally the only one I could find. And I was like, well, it's gonna have to do. Anyway, so let's go ahead and get started. I already did my skincare, so I am just going to go ahead and get started with the makeup because I'm hoping to keep this slightly shorter. I say that, and every time I do that, it ends up being like the longest review yet, but whatever, it's fine. So The Help takes place in 1960s Jackson, Mississippi, and it focuses around the lives of three women in Jackson. There's Skeeter Phelan, who is just recently graduated from Ole Miss in journalism. She wants to be an author, and she's just struggling being a young adult and trying to figure out what life is all about. Then there is Aibileen, who is, I would say Abileen's kind of like our main character because she starts and ends the book. Aibileen is in her late 50s, she is a maid, and she has a lot of life experience. She has some tragic things in her past. Her son passed away tragically 2 years prior to the beginning of the book, and you know, she is just full of wisdom, and she's very giving and a very, very faithful spiritual person. She's just amazing. I love her. And then there is Minnie. I think her last name's Jackson. Minnie is absolutely full of spunk. She is also a maid. She's in her 30s. She talks back to everything, and she is full of fire, and she is not going to let anyone or anything keep her down. And so the book centers around these three women. They're all kind of brought together, which is kind of unusual, as Skeeter is a white privileged young lady, and Aibileen and Minnie are just the help. So they end up writing a book together called Help. It is about the life and struggles and experiences of colored maids in Mississippi. And so they go through the struggles and heartaches and triumphs of writing this book and trying to get it published. And you see Skeeter slowly start to realize what's going on with race issues and race relations in Mississippi and her hometown. You know, they go through this together through thick and thin, and things get very, very sticky very, very fast. So yeah, that is the bare bones spoiler-free summary. From this point forward, there will be spoilers, so if that bothers you, stay tuned for the summary and final look at the end. I will timestamp it down below, and if spoilers don't bother you, keep watching, please. So because this book is a historical fiction, my makeup look is actually going to have, you know, both some elements of being inspired by the concept and themes of the book itself, and then also just historical makeup. So, you know, obviously I'm not going to look up like makeup trends in Jackson, Mississippi in the 1960s, because that's just a little bit too specific, but it's going to be generally overarching 60s makeup. So I'm kind of excited because I love historical makeup almost as much as I love historical fiction, so we will see. I'm excited. So first things first, I am going to do my eyes. I am going to be using the Too Faced Chocolate Bar eyeshadow palette, and if you have read the book, you may already be cringing a little because you know why I chose a chocolate themed palette. If not, I am going to fill you in. So one thing that is interesting about this book was how the author used a single specific plot point to kind of tie everything together and drive the whole plot. So everything kind of starts with Minnie being fired from her former job. So the antagonist of the book is Hilly. Hilly is a very hateable character. I was upset at her the whole darn book. I forgot to prime my eyelids. I'm so excited about talking about the book, I don't even know what I am doing with my stupid eyes. Hilly basically just does not like Minnie at all because she, well, yeah, Hilly doesn't like anyone, pretty much. She is power hungry, conniving, she is, I mean, there's obviously a lot of racism in this book, but she's at the top of the pile. Minnie was originally, at the start of the book, she is working for Hilly's mother, Miss Walters, who has some, like, beginning stages of dementia. She doesn't really eat, and Minnie is known for her incredible cooking, and so Hilly is pretty much using anything she can to get at Millie because she's just a terrible person. And so she, you know, says, like, well, you know, you're starving my mother and I'm just going to have to put her in a home and da-da-da-da-da. So she's like, with almost no notice, she kind of almost forces Minnie out of her job and then accuses her of stealing so no one else will hire her, and then says, well, I guess she'll have to work for me. And Minnie, being the fiery person that she is not having it, which can't blame her. But like I said, Hilly is conniving and stupid. And no, she's conniving and very, very smart, but oh my gosh, so infuriating. Anyway, so Millie gets back at her by, she bakes her a chocolate pie, her world famous chocolate pie, and Hilly eats 2 whole slices, and then Miss Walters comes in and she asks for a slice, and Minnie says, oh no, this is just for Miss Hilly. She's like, well, my mom can have some pie if she wants. She's like, oh no, because see what she actually did, she used all these really good ingredients, but there was one particular special ingredient in this chocolate pie, and that was Minnie's poo. She used some feces in the pie, and Miss Hilly, she ate herself 2 whole slices. Anyway, so that event kind of kickstarts the whole book. Obviously, Hilly is slightly furious with Minnie. Like I said, it kickstarts the whole plot, and so that is why I'm using a chocolate-themed eyeshadow palette. Oh my gosh, it was, oh, this book is so good, y'all. I was fully invested in this story from chapter 1. Every single character is so interesting, so engaging. I was 100% invested in these characters, in how they developed and how they kept persevering despite everything they were surrounded by. It was hard to choose a favorite of our three main characters between Minnie, Aibileen, and Skeeter, because all of them are so well written. I would say probably the most, not necessarily my favorite, but the one that I connected to most was Skeeter. And that was just because I related a lot to her life experience. Skeeter is really tall, and especially, you know, back in the 1960s, made you kind of a little bit of a social romantic pariah. Yeah. Skeeter just cannot find a man to save her life. And she wants more out of her life than just, you know, the traditional things. And she's kind of given up a little bit on love, and she's just trying her best to figure out how to be an adult. And, you know, she's just graduated from school, and it's a really good coming of age story. And so, you know, being a tall gal myself, I sincerely related to her struggles just being a tall gal. Fortunately, I have a much more supportive mom than Skeeter. My mom never like nagged me constantly to keep my hair as flat as possible and wear the flattest shoes possible. But just feeling a little bit outcasted, a little bit less than because of my height. I definitely understand, especially, you know, when I was younger, that was something that I dealt with a lot. And, you know, as I've grown up, I've come to be more comfortable with myself. And that's a journey that you will also kind of see Skeeter go through as she develops in the book. And I think, honestly, I mean, all of the characters have some development, but I think Skeeter goes through the most dramatic change in the book, which is really fun to watch. Because, I mean, you know, at the beginning of the book, she doesn't notice the problems around her. And not just in regards to race or anything like that, although that's certainly the biggest aspect, that she doesn't really recognize problems, but even problems within her friendship, within her relationships with those around her. She doesn't really understand how much she's being dragged down by all of these norms and expectations of her. And so getting to see her develop from being unsure about what her life is going to look like to what she ends up as, just strong and confident and willing to go through complete social degradation and isolation for something that she believes in, and being willing to stand up for her newfound friends. Just, it is an absolutely amazing arc, and it's something I haven't really seen a lot of. Because, you know, when I've read a lot of books that take place with civil rights, obviously you focus on the African American characters and people who drove the movement, who fought for their own rights. And then occasionally you'll also see some of the focus on the white characters that, you know, help them along the way and all of that. But to see both in a single book was really cool. Like I said, it was so good. I was thoroughly enjoying it from start to finish. So I love this author's writing style. It's just a lot of fun. I love her descriptiveness and the different voices she gives to the characters. You know, even if it didn't announce at the beginning of the chapter who you were listening to, like Aibileen, Minnie, or Skeeter, you would still know because their voices are so different. And that was another thing I thought was really interesting. So this is one of the only like multi-character books I've ever seen that uses first person, which I was a little unsure about to begin with because it's just so unusual, but it worked so well. I was delighted with it. I mean, I can imagine that would be difficult, having to give all of the characters their own unique voices and everything. I think that'd be somewhat difficult. She did an awesome job. Please go read it. If you haven't read it, go read it. Like, I'd heard of this book before I read it, but like I'd only heard of the movie, which also the audiobook, I think it had like all three of the ladies that like played the characters in the movie, like I'm pretty sure were also the narrators in the audiobook, which is like, it just made it really fun. So that was cool. I'm gonna do something bold and daring. We're gonna add some blue because apparently the blues were a thing in the 60s. At least I saw some good pictures of it. A couple other things I want to talk about. Like I said, they write this book, and one thing that I think was done really well in the book is just making the struggle seem real. These characters do not succeed all the time. They struggle and fail a lot. It takes them a long time to get to their goals, and I think that is really, really, really cool. Because, you know, one thing that I think is a struggle for a lot of authors is to want to resolve the plot too quickly. You want everything to go smoothly for your characters, or you throw in a couple roadblocks, but they're fairly easy for them to get through because, you know, you want your heroes to succeed. And one thing that was interesting was that even in the biggest success of the story, there was still some bittersweetness to it. And so I loved seeing that struggle because it made it feel so much more realistic that you had these characters that really did sacrifice a lot for the greater good, for trying to make the lives of maids in Mississippi better. It was really, really powerful, I think, to see all of them come together and do this even though they knew it could end badly. And each of them lost pretty badly. You know, I talked about Skeeter. She lost all of her friends. She lost pretty much all of her social standing. She was isolated. She actually does end up having a love interest in the book who really does seem to love her for her mind, for who she is, and ends up proposing to her. And she tells him, you know, she's like, I can't keep the secret from him, so she tells him the broad strokes of the project that she's working on. And he breaks up with her over it because he can't understand why she's doing what she's doing, and he promises he won't tell on her, which, I mean, that was good. I guess I was kind of hoping that he would think about it, come to senses a little bit, and come back to her, because I wanted Skeeter to have that happy ending, because like I said, I related so much to her. I'm like, oh, it'd be so cool for her to get a happy ending. And then she does get a happy ending, but not that happy ending. She ends up getting an editing job in New York that she almost doesn't take because she doesn't want to leave Aibileen and Minnie in the midst of all of the terrible stuff that's happening. Like, they tell her to go anyway. Minnie tells her if she doesn't go, she's gonna like kick her out herself. And Aibileen, she loves being able to watch after children. So she is actually the maid for Skeeter's friend Elizabeth, who is not an amazing mother. She kind of neglects her kids. The firstborn is May Mobley. And, you know, Aibileen just absolutely delights in teaching May Mobley and telling her that she is loved and she's precious. And Aibileen takes it upon herself to tell May Mobley that she is smart, she is good, she is kind, she's worthwhile, and she tells her these secret stories that are just between the two of them, and tells her, you know, that no matter their color, people are people, and to love herself, to love others. She even tells a story of a Martian that came to make the world better named Martian Luther King. You actually see May Mobley starting to change just because of the influence of Aibileen. At the end of the book, Hilly, being the demon spawn that she is, kind of forces Elizabeth to fire Aibileen. It just broke my heart at the end to see their goodbye, but then it said, Aibileen, for a moment she looked in May Mobley's eyes and she saw the strong, confident woman that she grew up to be. And like, I'm tearing up right now because it was just such a touching, moving moment to see the difference that Aibileen made in May Mobley's life. It was moving, guys. I was a sobbing mess. I was driving. I couldn't focus on the road because I was so overwhelmed by this moment. It was so well written. I love Aibileen, guys. She, like I said, I connected, I think, with Skeeter the most just because she's roughly the same age as me, going through a lot of the same things as me in regards to like place in life. But man, Aibileen is just such a strong, loving, gentle character. I love her so much. I also really love Minnie. I struggle a little bit more with Minnie's character just because, like, I personally am not nearly as much of a spunky person. I am not confrontational, that's not. And so while I vastly appreciate Minnie's character, and she does one of the most selfless things in the entire book, she is a really, really, really good character. I didn't relate to her quite as much as I did with Skeeter and Aibileen, but that's not to say she's not an amazing character. She is. She absolutely is. And so, like I said, she does one of the most selfless things in the entire. They tell these different maids' stories, and one of the things that they want to do is, you know, they want to make sure that all of the maids are safe. It takes them forever to find the maids who have enough courage to be able to speak their stories, because at first it's only Aibileen and it takes forever to convince Minnie, and then it takes forever to get the other 12 maids that they need for the book. And what sparks it is Hilly's maid gets sent to jail over almost nothing. I mean, kind of something, but almost nothing. And it's a really sad part of the book, and it's really sad that that's what it took for people to be willing to speak up, but at the same time it's like a really powerful moment of the book, because people are like, if we don't speak up, nothing's gonna change. It's just gonna be this for the rest of our lives. But there was still that fear that, you know, the women that they wrote about would figure out that this in fact took place in Jackson, Mississippi, and then there would be absolute hell to pay. And that was a very, very real danger throughout the story. Oh boy, guys, it was a lot. Minnie, she specifically puts in the chocolate pie story about Hilly because she knows that Hilly will do almost anything to make sure that people don't know it's her that ate crab pie. And so they're taking a bet that Hilly will read the book, first of all, and tell other people that it's not Jackson so that people won't guess it's her. And so, I mean, like I said, it gets really intense. And so things end up kind of going that way after a lot of stress. That made it so much worse for Minnie, because obviously as soon as that goes in, then Hilly knows exactly who talked about it. And so she, like, and Minnie also goes through other stuff throughout the book. So Minnie's husband Leroy is abusive, and at first it wasn't quite as obvious as you'd like think it would be, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is pretty serious, like, because it's kind of a side plot, you know. They talk about it, but in the seriousness of all of this other like race-related stuff that they're going through, like, that seems almost pale by comparison. But as soon as Hilly finds out about this, Hilly gets her husband to use his connections to make Leroy lose his job, and Leroy literally almost kills Minnie. So Minnie, who has been just a rock throughout this entire story, she is beaten down, she is broken, she is struggling, and, you know, she takes the kids and she calls Aibileen from the gas station, and she is kind of a mess, and Abileen's like also brokenhearted because Minnie is her closest friend, and that instance is what finally gives Millie the gumption to finally leave Leroy. And that is, again, it's kind of a bittersweet ending, because that's not an ideal ending. There's still a lot of unsure things, but Minnie is free from her abuser. And that was one of the other themes of the book, was just finding freedom. And Aibileen, Minnie, and Skeeter were all trapped at the beginning of the book, even if they didn't necessarily realize they were trapped. But by the end of the book, even though the freedom isn't exactly what they hoped or thought it would be, they all find their own brand of freedom, and there's a little bit of uncertainty in their freedom. Aibileen gets fired. She has some things she can depend on, but other things, you know, she's not sure exactly what's going to happen. She's not sure exactly what her next steps are going to be. Skeeter pretty much leaves everything behind and she goes to New York. There's a lot of uncertainties in her life. Minnie is free from her abuser, but she has all of her kids, and she has a secure job, but she doesn't know what she's doing. Like I said, there is so much uncertainty, but at the end of the day, they're free. And that's kind of the theme of the book, is that being free is a struggle and there's sacrifice to it. The story is just fabulous. It is so well written. The characters are so relatable. They are so engaging and exciting, and they're either easily lovable or easily hateable in Hilly's case. Oh my gosh, if you have not read this book, please by all means read this book. It's so good. Oh my gosh, where did I put my brow gel? I'm in such a mess. So a few things that I wanted to point out. I love the development of all of the characters. I mean, I am a character person. Like most of what I love about books tends to be related to the characters and how well I connect with them. So obviously the characters being so well written and so amazing in this book hits the right spot for me. I love that each of our three main characters is brave in her own way. I already talked about, you know, Millie's bravery. She's fiery, she's spunky, she puts herself on the line for other people all the freaking time. She is your warrior. She is ready to fight for what she believes in. She is strong, she is fierce. I love her. And then you have Skeeter, who is brave because she is willing to put herself out on the line for others. She is willing to write and say what other people are too afraid to address. She's willing to change her point of view. She's willing to address things that are difficult to talk about, that are difficult to unlearn, difficult to change. For this Mississippi gal, that is pretty darn brave. It takes a lot of courage to, you know, admit that everyone that you know and love is wrong, is racist. It takes even more courage to not just acknowledge that, but then to make a conscious effort to change because of it. Aibileen has a quiet bravery. So she's the one, she is so faithful. She is the first one to take a leap of faith with Skeeter. She is the prayer warrior. There's mention throughout the book of Abileen's prayer list. Like, you get on Abileen's prayer list, she has a deeper connection with God than most people do. Like, her power and her courage and her bravery is just all about the quiet persistence. No matter what Aibileen goes through, she just keeps going. She is faithful that she is doing the right thing, and like, Aibileen is what I hope I can be like. I mean, I hope I can be as brave as any or all of them, but Aibileen just has a beautiful blend of gentle strength, and that is so hard to achieve. A lot of times I think it's easy to see the strength and the bravery in people like Minnie, but I think it's a lot harder to see the courage in Aibileen's version of strength, where it's gentle, it's compassionate. That's real good, guys. It's real good. I'm going to do my eyeliner and henna. Be right back, because we all know that this girl can't talk and do eyeliner at the same time. Honestly, I don't have a ton else to say. I mean, while I finish my makeup, obviously, I'll talk some more about things that I love. I think it does a really good job at covering some difficult topics in a sensitive way. I was delighted with it, honestly. One thing I almost haven't touched on at all, Aibileen got Minnie a job with Celia Foote, who is kind of her own brand of social pariah. She grew up in Sugarditch, which is kind of a really, really rundown poor area. Like, Minnie even comments, like, that's one of the only places where, like, the whites are struggling for life. That is where Celia comes from. And just her development as a character is interesting too, and you know, Minnie kind of is driven nuts by Celia a lot. Like, a lot, because she is a little bit ditzy. She doesn't do a ton. She struggles with infertility, and which is something that is revealed throughout the book, and it's hard to watch. She almost dies at one point from a miscarriage, and Minnie saves her. There's a lot of drama that happens with Celia, and it's so hard to watch because, you know, you can tell she's just she's depressed. She's trying her best, but she doesn't really know what to do. She doesn't really feel like she deserves her husband because she came from Sugarditch, and she doesn't have any friends, and she doesn't know what to do about that, and it's kind of hard to watch, honestly. It's kind of hard to listen to. But yeah, just all of the interactions and seeing Minnie, like I said, Minnie is a little spitfire, and so watching her, Celia treats her really well, but again, she's so ditzy that it kind of rubs Minnie the wrong way. Seeing their relationship develop across the course of the book is really interesting, seeing Celia develop, and you know, she keeps having this she's a very naive character. She has this kind of naive hope that she's eventually going to be able to make friends, and she keeps trying to make friends with Hilly and her bunch because they're the social queens of Jackson, and you know, it was never gonna happen for her, which is sad. But that's an interesting arc. There's a lot that her with Minnie is an interesting pairing, because, you know, with Aibileen, she would have gotten so much compassion, she would have gotten so much, it would have been a very different dynamic. But the dynamic of loudmouth Minnie with ditzy naive Celia, It's interesting, and I liked it. I liked that literary choice. I liked most of the literary choices. There wasn't anything that I thought was badly written. There wasn't any point that didn't seem well developed, that didn't make sense once it came to fruition. I am going to go ahead and apply my lashes real quick, because again, that's another thing that I cannot do while talking. And then we'll be almost ready to wrap up. Okay, y'all, I'm not gonna lie, that took me way longer than I wanted it to. Oh my gosh. Falsies are not my thing. I can't. I am almost incapable of applying false lashes, so I'm not sure why I thought it would be a good idea, except that the historical makeup thing said falsies were a thing and the bigger the lashes the better, and I have like 2 eyelashes naturally, so I was like, oh, apply the falsies so I can appear as if I have eyelashes. Now, I'm not gonna do the twiggy thing where I like draw on the big lashes beneath, because honestly, I am just not brave enough for that right now. And I have to go to D&D later, and I don't want my friends to make fun of me. So that's that's where we're at right now. I just spent 15 minutes applying lashes that are badly applied. Your girl needs help. I love the way everything kind of comes full circle, particularly with the chocolate pie, and because they don't give it away right away. You know that something bad with a pie happened, but you don't know what it is at the very beginning. You get it revealed in bits and pieces throughout the story. The other thing that gets revealed in bits and pieces is the story of Constantine, who was Skeeter's maid growing up, that was mysteriously let go while she was still away at school. And Aibileen knows what happened, but she doesn't want to tell because it involves Skeeter's mom, and she already has a tenuous relationship with her mom, and Aibileen doesn't want to like stir up any water. She just kind of leaves it be and then eventually fills it in. And dang, the story with Constantine is really sad because Skeeter loved Constantine. Constantine practically raised Skeeter, and yeah, that's a tough one to read because a lot of stuff happened with Constantine, and that was a lot of where you saw Skeeter learning more about kind of the reality of how things were. Okay. We're almost done because 60s makeup highlighting and contouring was not really a thing, so I'm just gonna apply a little blush and then we're almost done. I love how well crafted the plotline is because, you know, a lot of people, you know, they write really good characters, struggle with plot, write really good plot, struggle with characters. Kathryn Stockett, man, she does both really, really top notch. I have 0 complaints. Oh, one thing I did want to talk about, another part of the book that made me almost cry, and like I said, there were like multiple places in the book that made me almost cry. So one of the main things in the book that really got to me emotionally was, like I said, Skeeter kind of got herself very isolated from pretty much everyone she knew and loved. Like pretty much the only person that she actually had a really good relationship left at the end of the book, besides Aibileen and Minnie, was her dad. And pretty much everyone else just abandoned her. Towards the end, right after the book gets published, Aibileen and Minnie go, and their church has like a private like recognition ceremony for Aibileen and all of the work that she did on the book, and they said it's too dangerous to acknowledge it anytime but now, so this will be the only time we mention it, but we love you so much. They got a copy of Help, and hundreds of people signed the book and gave it to Aibileen, that was already just a very sweet moment. They give her another copy of the book that's signed, and they say this is for Skeeter, which they don't call her Skeeter, but the book is for Skeeter, and it's also signed by everyone. And they said, we know what she gave up to help you write this book. We want her to know that she is loved and she is part of our family. And I was so touched by that because Aibileen didn't end up giving it to Skeeter until the end of the book. But oh my gosh, that was just such a poignant moment because you saw just how much those 3 ladies, like how much they put on the line to tell the truth, to help make things better, how much they sacrificed, how much they gave up, and seeing that moment of gratitude, that moment of recognition, that to me was one of the most satisfying parts of the book. It was so well written, it was so emotionally poignant. I was a mess, guys. Oh my gosh. Alright guys, this is the final look. Hopefully I did an okay job with my 60s the Help inspired makeup. I really like how it turned out, despite the fact that it took me 15 minutes to apply these stupid lashes, because I suck at applying lashes. Oh my gosh. Downside to lip gloss, downside to lip gloss, it gets everywhere. I don't know why I'm wearing my hair down. This is a disaster waiting to happen. But for the 0.2 seconds that I am recording this outro, it looks good. So anyway, that is my review of The Help. If you haven't figured it out already, I loved this book. I highly recommend it. I think it is extremely well written, extremely thoughtful and poignant, and there's philosophy, there's civil rights, there's good character development, there's beautiful arcs, beautiful interactions, there's a really good plot. It is intense. It is painful to listen to sometimes. It deals with everything from, like I said, civil rights to domestic abuse, to friendships, to coming of age, to the struggles of being a tall girl in the 60s, to infertility. Like, just pretty much everything you can think of, this book probably touches on it at some point or another. And just in the end, it's just a good, solid story, and it's a big book. Like, I was not expecting it to be as long as it was. Like, I mean, I guess I could have looked on the cover of the audiobook and seen how many hours it was to listen to, but like, I was listening to it for like a couple weeks, and like I said, not all of that was like consistent. It was just to and from work for like 40 minutes a day, but like, still it is a thick book, but it is like, it never dragged, it never got boring, everything is told super duper well. Just please go read this book. I hope you love it as much as I did. Without further ado, that is all I have for you. Thank you so much for joining me today, my precious little dragons. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know. Please like and consider subscribing, and then if you have any suggestions for future reviews or book looks that I should do, please let me know down in the comments. If you loved this book or didn't love this book, I would also love to hear why. Please let me know. I always love to have a good book-based discussion. So thank you so much, and I love you so much. Have an absolutely beautiful day. Bye!